So, do we have anything pressing right at the moment?
I need 10 minutes for non-elected.
Okay.
I make a motion to have an executive session for non-elected personnel for 10 minutes.
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and second. We go into 10-minute executive session for non-elected personnel. All in favor say aye. We're in executive session. We're on for 10 minutes.
Right. You want me to
Yeah.
just tell you what I was talking about?
Yeah.
All right, Rob, I had some interesting phone conversations this last week with the Weather Bureau. And I got a call from Jeff after the tornado. And I talked to Farah from Seward, and there's some unhappy people because the sirens didn't go off in Seward. And of course, Farah was mad at Jeff, and Jeff was like, and he told me some of the issues. Well, long story short, I talked to the weather people about this in Dodge City. The guy from Dodge City says that we are not too far out on their system. That's not the problem. This is not the technology. They can detect these storms just as well here as they can at Kinsley, for example. Jeff pretty well indicated that there's about a 10-minute delay by the time we get information. Basically, the storm's already happened. Is that true?
A lot of times that is. We'll get they get the teletypes from Dodge City to our dispatchers at one state, and then they go ahead and place them out. By that time, a lot of times the storms are already there and through.
Okay.
And on the question on Sarah, the storms were coming, they had already gotten past. When we, the tornadoes were already there. That's the reason the sirens were never set off, because they were north of Seward.
Right.
They were already had gotten past them.
On this particular storm, the Weather Bureau admitted they missed the storm. This was an extremely unusual storm. In their own words, it was extremely unusual. And they did not pay close enough attention because they don't expect tornadoes to come from the south and the east and move to the north and the west. And because of that, by the time they realized what was happening, the tornado had already happened. By the time they issued the warning, it was just like we're talking about. But from what I understand and what I told him, I said, this happened, this is not unusual. And he said, oh yes, it is unusual, and we should be getting that information almost instantaneously. And apparently we're not, and that's true. Okay, so what?
We do not get it. It has been for years like this.
Where do we get the information from?
It comes from Dodge City.
From?
I believe it's a teletype system that they use to input out. That comes in on the screens, and the dispatchers will print it off. It has the weather advisories.
Okay, what this guy, and this was his job, the one I was talking to, he said the problem isn't the technology of detecting. We can detect, we're not too far out on the extremes to detect. And he said the problem isn't a delay. He said because there should only be a 5 to 10 second delay at most worldwide, because you can get your information from the web. He said weather radio, there's other private places that give information as well. And he said as soon as we push that button, as soon as we make a decision, you guys should have it within 5 or 10 seconds. So we need to figure out what we need to do to get that.
It's been a standard deal that it always seems to be that the storms are past us or had already hit us and going on through.
Well,
Earlier in the spring,
pretty
we were
much what
talking about
Farrah and
Hill
Jeff
and Maxville.
Yeah.
At one time, I was off duty. It had already held for 5-10 minutes. The storm was already past Maxville before it just came in, and they put it down.
And that's what Jeff said. We do pay more on visual than we do on the Weather Bureau.
On their updates.
And so the weather guy says, well, the technology is good, and it's not because you're too far out, but for some reason you're not getting the information as soon as you should. And he said there's no reason for that, because he said as soon as we issue the warning, we should have it. So we need to find out
I'm not sure why, but it has consistently been that way, that it's 5 minutes to 10 minutes behind. The storms have already hit the areas that they're advising and passed.
And is it rerouted?
It's been that way for years.
He has somebody can call out there, he can, sheriff's department call.
Jeff has dealt with them in the past, trying to get, something that they can be more speed
he thinks that you're probably getting this information from a law enforcement channel. Now, when you say teletype, I don't know what that means. Is that something tied with law enforcement, or?
It's through our computer system, our law enforcement computer
I
system.
think that's the problem.
Maybe, but once they put it in there and it goes through our system, maybe that could be, I do not know.
He says, for example, that's not a priority in that system, weather is not. So things like that. So he suggested, and I don't know enough about it to tell you, exactly what's going on. He told me a lot of things, but he suggested you tied in with the weather radio or the internet. And he said, because he said as soon as as soon as we make a decision, as soon as we push that button, basically it's all over the world. That you could be in Australia and know within 10 seconds if there's a warning issued in Stafford County. So why your sheriff's department isn't getting it, he said, I don't know.
I do not know.
I think we need to figure this out.
But all I do know is, all the years I've been here, is consistently we are behind time before it gets out to us where we're at.
Well, on this storm, it was the Weather Bureau's fault. The warning was not issued in time, but it sounds like in most storms, that's not the case.
Okay.
And so we need to find out why we're not getting the information
I do know.
quickly enough.
On
Because
this
5 minutes is
on this storm, the internet did go out. They weren't able to track it at the fire station, I believe.
Apparently, the weather radio thing might be the most reliable, but I don't know. It's not my area. And, yeah, I could get you a number,
Okay.
but I'm sure Jeff's already talked to him. But if you want to, I'll get you a number and the name. This guy was
Okay.
the head of this group.
We
And maybe
get
he
with
can
our
help
attack
you.
officer, which is Regine, and she's in charge of all the computer systems down there, and see what maybe we can, if we just need to not rely on that for the updates.
I think that maybe you need to have 2 or 3, because like you said, the internet can go down, this can go down, but it sounds like the system you're using is just not, that we need to use up fast.
But like they say on this, in this incident, they were behind.
This incident was the Weather
But when
Bureau's
we did
fault.
see the tornadoes, the reason we didn't call them and have them set off was the tornadoes were north of Seward by several miles.
Right, they were long
And
gone.
it was no sense, and I've had the general public talk to me also about this. He says, why did Barton County know? Barton County knew because we advised them that the tornadoes were going into their county. Because we had visuals on them and let them know, because we had direct radio contact with their spotters and their sheriff's office.
But he also thought that they get their information off the weather radio.
Mhm.
So in Barton County, it's pretty instant. Find out what Barton County does, and when we need to do the same thing, I guess. I mean, we need to look
It
into
might be
this.
that they can, rely on the law enforcement part of it. I mean, it comes through our teletyping system and just go, basically have a computer for internet only on the weather. Maybe, I do not know.
I can't sit here and tell you the solution because I'm not familiar enough with everything, but I know it needs to be looked at.
That's a
And there's solutions out there that can be way better than what we got.
Get hold of it with Reggie, I believe, that she's the attack officer in charge of all the computer.
And if you need the name and number of this guy that I talked to, I've got it written down at home.
Okay.
Very, very nice.
Give it to us,
Very
and
nice
we'll see what we can do, because I, for one, would like to have closer weather updates too, because
Yeah,
knowing when they're coming.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I know, I had mine on the weather radio, and they were talking about how the storms were forming down in Barton County, and we were going in a northerly direction, and, they were talking about, Stafford County, Barton County is under the watch, and so on and so forth. And I get good reception.
Well, you probably do I think it said it reception off that ends up out for Revere somewhere. I don't know if that's weather radio station. It said
The NORA weather.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
It probably depends on
Circle around
which
it.
one, because there's like Belvedere has a weather tower, I believe is what it is, and for the different stations, you have to pick up different ones to get them, I think. I kept thinking our closest one might be the Belvedere in Dodge City.
I don't know, mine just says 6. It's in position 6.
6 on the.
They don't get anything on 7 or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And, okay, well, I was just asking
Well,
questions.
anyhow, I think we need to look into it. I bet there's some solutions out there, things that we can do that help us. So, well, I do too, because that's a little scary, it's that bad.
It's been something we've had to deal with for years.
Yeah, that's what Jeff said, and I had no
It's always
idea.
been behind.
I really didn't know.
It's always been that way, I know.
I-
We talked about it before.
Well, it's time for change.
3 or 4 years ago, we had a lot of calls to Dodge City on the weather about that. It seems like we were always getting them late, see about speaking about that, and Jeff was doing that.
That he indicated that, but it's not that we're not getting, I mean, like this guy, and then if you think about it, he said, we issue the warning, boom, it's instantaneous worldwide. So why wouldn't you be getting it? I said, I don't know. I don't either, except that teletypes and things like that, I'm sure there's a process that they go, so somebody reads it, then they type it in, and then it goes to this, that. Who knows? I don't know. But if you think about it, that's probably what's going on. And that was his first thought, was, anyhow.
Just a delay to get it really back to us through a secure system, probably.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you.
All right. We'll recess. So if there's nothing else, you have anything, Roger? Anita, we're finished? All right, we're adjourned.